On this episode of the Mamas con Ganas podcast, I'm going to be talking about the relationship between clutter and procrastination. So we're going to see how what is reflected in your outside world, basically all the spaces that you live in, how that reflects the procrastination that might be holding you back from your dream life. So we're talking about taking a look at all of our spaces, our office, our bedroom, our bathroom, our kitchen, like the entire house. It's a little bit of a feng shui / Marie Kondo sort of episode, but I'm really interested in the topic right now because I'm in the process, mamacita, of decluttering my house because we're in the process of moving and we don't know yet when we're going to move into our new house, but it's been a very interesting process that we've undertaken before the move. We've been decluttering, and I literally had spent the last 3 weeks getting rid of stuff and getting rid of stuff and getting rid of stuff, and it's amazing how much mental clarity I'm gaining from like the empty spaces in my house. And it's interesting because it's been about since 2020 that I've been calling in the word organization. Organization has been one of those keywords that I've written down a lot. Like I've gotten clear on the fact that I want to get extremely organized in my home and organized just in general in my business and everything that I'm doing, right? And as soon as you pinpoint something in your life that you want to focus on, it's as if the universe conspires to basically bring you all this information that you've been looking for, right? You ask the universe, I want organization. And all of a sudden, all these things pop up. Podcast episodes that I started listening to, things that my friends started to say to me, just different things on social media that I would look at. I would start, like, for example, even like coming across professional organizers on social media, and I was like interested in this topic in general. And I've always loved the topic of feng shui. So feng shui is basically like the art of, for the Chinese, it's basically how to attract goodness in your life through the way that you organize your home. And I have a feng shui book that I have had since I was like 24 years old that I still go through and that I use, right? Because who doesn't want to draw in good luck and good fortune and abundance and all these and good health and all the good things that we all desire in life, right? So it's interesting how, like I said, since 2020, it's been one of these words that I've been really drawn to. And I think one of the reasons was because in 2020, we had our permanent foster son come in and started living with us. And it was something very unexpected. And we live in a 4-bedroom apartment. And it's not small, it's 3,000 square feet. However, the 4th bedroom was or used to be an office / guest room. And when our son Aiden came to live with us, that room converted into his room, but it was sort of like Aiden's room / office / guest room. And we had a difficult time knowing where to put all the things that we had, right? Because we don't have a garage. We live in an apartment building. So it's like in our mind, my husband and I have been dreaming of moving into a bigger place since then because we felt like the 4-bedroom no longer fit our needs. We wanted a 5th bedroom, right? And it did take a while in order to like manifest the home that we're about to purchase. That's another story because it's quite an amazing story and I can't wait to share it on the episode of the podcast. But right now, today, I want to talk about how, sometimes we have symptoms of procrastination. And a lot of times, the procrastination is emphasized and it's living in the clutter in our house. And we procrastinate when we're procrastinate like cleaning our external world. It's like procrastinating getting clarity in our internal world. And those are the things that I've been discovering in the past months, really. I mean, I've been calling into my world for a while, but in the past months, it's sort of been like very clear to me how all these things that I'm doing, and particularly now those last 3 weeks that I've done, how amazing it is that when you start decluttering, you not only start decluttering your mind, but you start decluttering your external world, you actually start decluttering your mind, and how much space you create when you create the space around you that had clutter in it. you start creating also space for possibilities, for new ideas, for new business ventures, for new adventures in general in life. And when we have things that pile up that we procrastinate in organizing, we're also procrastinating and gaining clarity in our mind. And I think that all of us our desire to have a mind that's clear and where we feel like our ideas flow freely and they flow without obstruction. And also that we have new ideas that pop up, right? And if our spaces are very cluttered, it's very hard for new things to come to us. It's sort of like our external world has to be in vibrational match to our internal world. And it's really cool that this is so, because we have a lot of power in terms of our external world, whether we live in a one bedroom condo, or even, how do you call one of those apartments where you live in with the kitchen at a studio apartment, whether we live in a studio apartment or we live in a mansion. It's like our external world, we have the capacity to organize it, to take it upon ourselves, to really do something about it. And I think a lot of times in our lives, we feel like there's a lot of things that are outside of our control. And those things that are outside of our control, that we feel that are outside of our control, can be very frustrating because we feel like, oh, well, there's nothing we can do. But when it comes to like organization, and the organization of our external world, we have a lot of empowerment there, because we are the ones that decide whether we're going to clean that space or not. Now, I know that it can seem quite daunting sometimes when we've had a lot of clutter accumulate, and also when we've procrastinated organizing our external world, right? And I live, mamacita, in a house I'm like the only girl here, and I have 3 boys and a husband, and pretty much the major part of the organization falls on my shoulders, even though I've started to delegate quite a bit. And I've started to teach, like, particularly my adolescents, how to organize. Like this weekend, for example, like I had my teenagers, like, help me with the organization of the kitchen and help me figure out what was needed, what's not needed. And it's really cool when you have the whole family get involved, how exciting it can be, because you start feeling like a lot of progress is made, and then people are proud to live in that space together. So I do think it's something that needs to be shared. But the reality is, a lot of the times, a lot of the organization, for example, for my 6-year-old, happens with me, even though, yes, I'm teaching him how to do things, how to put things away already. At the same time, I think you can relate as moms that a lot of this stuff falls on us, because the home is something that has a lot of female energy, right? We are like the homemakers, and that's just the reality a lot of times. Not in all households, but I can say that my husband spends so much time at work that in reality, the responsibility of the home, most of it lies with me. In any case, a lot of times we feel like it's very stressful to start, right? We procrastinate the organization of our external world, just like we procrastinate the organization of our inner world. And we have all these desires, all these things that we want to accomplish, these goals, these things that we want to attain, right? And yet, for some reason, we don't realize that the solution might be in starting to take action on what we can act upon, and that is our external immediate surroundings. And we have control of, like, being able to organize, the environment that we live in, that we spend our time in. And if we take the time for that organization, it can make us feel so much lighter, because clutter, the reality is, weighs us down. When we get rid of things, there's this feeling of like feeling light within ourselves. And it's interesting because this week, so we rented a storage, and I started getting rid of a lot of stuff and putting a lot of stuff in storage. Some of the things are going to be going into our new house, but then we also we gave some things away to charity. Other things, a lot of things we also threw away. And it was amazing what we discovered in the process. Number one, I discovered that I love empty spaces. Now that the house has, like, we've gotten rid of, like, I don't know, 2/3 of the clutter that we had. And when I mean clutter, I mean the things that were in cabinets and drawers and closets and stuff. When you get rid of like 1/3 of your things, at least 1/3 of our things, or like maybe even half of our things, it's so cool to open up those like pieces of furniture and there's like just space. Because when you see space in your furniture and you open cabinets and you open drawers and there's space, it's almost like this feeling of possibility. And it also, when we talk about the law of attraction, and I know that if you've been listening to my podcast for a while, you know that I absolutely love the topic of the law of attraction. Well, when you have empty space in your house, it's basically a signal, right, to the universe that you are ready to receive more, that you have a place to receive what the universe could offer you. Whereas when you keep things very cluttered and there's like no space to put anything new, it's basically sending a signal to the universe that you have a scarcity mindset, that you don't need anything because all of the space where other new things could come and occupy is already taken. So you're basically telling the universe, I don't need anything else. I don't need any more abundance. I don't need any more anything because, you're not leaving space for possibility for the future. And I, for one, have been doing a lot. I've been setting a lot of intentions with the reorganization of everything, right? And it's interesting because I've done like a first lot of boxes that have gone out and are gone into storage, but I've liked the feeling of empty space so much that now I know that before they go even into my new house, when I open up the boxes, I'm going to have to do like another purge and like another getting rid of things to make sure that really what comes into my house and into my space are only the things that I absolutely, absolutely love.
This podcast is brought to you by Cash App. Cash App has the tools that make saving easier. Start building towards your savings goals $1 at a time. Need some ideas for things you can start saving for? How about a trip to Paris? Ooh la la. Or that course you've been eyeing that you know will take your business to a new level. What about a new laptop? A comfy new mattress? Or those diamond earrings you simply love? Reaching your goals, whatever they may be, is faster with Cash App's roundups and offers. You're paying yourself even while you're paying someone else. And while your money in Cash App is building, you could be literally doing anything other than thinking about it. It's like financial self-care. That's money, that's Cash App. Download Cash App from the App Store or Google Play Store to start saving today.
Now, I will tell you, one of the things that I have, because a lot of times we have a hard time and we have a lot of resistance in getting rid of belongings, right? Things that have a historical meaning for us, an emotional meaning, have memories attached to them. Well, one of the things that my husband and I have been arguing back and forth is I have a CD collection, right? And when I was a teenager, I used to collect CDs and music, just like my dad used to collect vinyl records. And I have a big collection of CDs. And, I would always tell my husband, don't bother me about my CDs. I will not get rid of my CDs. Just leave me alone. Because he would always make fun of me. He's like, that is so, it's so historic. It's like dinosaurs. It doesn't serve for anything. But I'm like, no. I love my CDs. I want to keep them. But after I've been doing this cleanse, I realized because that was one thing that I was not negotiating with him. And I put all my CDs in a box and I sent them away. But now what I want to do when I go into my new house is just go CD by CD and say, is this a CD that I absolutely love? Because I know that there are CDs in there that I might not have the same emotional love or the same feeling as others. So what I want to do is perhaps get rid of half of them. Just only bring into my space those things that I absolutely, absolutely love. Which brings me to say something that I've also realized during this whole procedure is that I have become a lot more aware about becoming a more conscious shopper. Because I realized now that I love my empty spaces, I could fill it back up with new things. But in reality, what I need to do is become a more conscious shopper. Only purchase shirts or clothing that I absolutely love, A lot of times we are sort of pushed or we have this urge to buy something because it's on sale or because, I don't know, or we let other people give us their old things and we pile on old stuff. But in reality, what I discovered through this whole process is I only want to let in that which I truly, truly love. And if it's not something that I truly love, I hold it in my hands. I say thank you for it, for its existence, and then I let it go, which is interesting because last week was the week of Thanksgiving. And as we were celebrating Thanksgiving, the days prior, I was basically doing this whole thankful ritual for all the things that I had owned that I was now letting go of. And it was interesting also during the process that it was hard to let go of some things, even when those things energetically were no longer aligned to my life. And even when those things sometimes brought up memories that weren't necessarily very happy. And that was interesting that I had to do. It was I felt like it was a sort of therapy, because I felt like I had to go back to the Valentina that I had been in that moment where that object was, and sort of make peace with it and realize that it was no longer going to serve me to keep that for my future, that I was going to let that go, and that even if I was having the hard time letting go of that object, even if it wasn't necessarily bringing up happy memories, it was sort of like a therapy that I was doing with myself, and I was feeling grateful for the experience of even the not so happy memory. And then I was able to let it go with more peace. And it's very interesting too how sometimes it's not just that process, but also coming across objects that somebody that we love has given us, but they've been things and presents that have been stuck in drawers, and we simply haven't been wanting to get rid of them because it's sort of like internally we don't want to insult the person who has given those presents to us. But the reality is that those things could serve somebody else better, that somebody else could use them and that we're not using them. And we sort of have this guilt attached to objects as well. It's very, very interesting. Also, like I was saying, how when you ask for the universe for something, and I was asking the world or the universe for organization, all these things sort of came falling into my lap. One of the things was that I was doing, or I've been doing, I'm still in the process of finishing it, this course called Unlimited Abundance. And it was interesting. It's 24 courses. So it's a very long thing, and it's you have to go through it, and it's a lot of exercises. And one of the exercises that actually came up in the past week and a half that I was doing all the cleansing and all the decluttering in my home was a meditation. Well, I guess you would say the course / meditation was on decluttering, and how when you declutter, you're basically entering into the space or the vibration. You're becoming a more vibrational match for abundance. And that when you clutter and you hoard things, you're basically more in a vibrational match for scarcity and for pushing away the abundance that we actually want. So it was interesting that as I was doing these things in the house, I was actually going through a meditation and a course where it was talking about unlimited abundance through the cleansing and the cleaning of your outside spaces. And it's interesting how there's been a lot of energy shift in the house, and a lot of things have moved forward, and things that had been procrastinated, back to what we were talking in the beginning, a lot of the things that had been procrastinated before, with the energy moving in the house, have been actually flowing, which is really, really interesting how all of these things are sort of connected. Our inner world and our outer worlds are completely connected. And I feel like it's good news, because as soon as we know that we have more control over our lives than what we actually thought was possible, then it's like a relief, right? A sigh of relief. Oh my gosh, you mean if I just organize my closet and my spaces, that things will just be better? And the answer is absolutely yes. Your vibrational energy and your frequency will change. And when your space around you, when you raise the vibrational energy of the space around you, it's no coincidence that then your mind feels clearer, that also you're more mentally aligned with the person that you want to become. And it's easier to start then working on the projects that you've sort of been putting on the back burner. It's really, really interesting. And I'm completely amazed. Now, I also want to talk briefly about empowering questions and the things that you can ask yourself if you are wanting to be in the process of like organizing and decluttering. Questions that will allow you to step into the space where you'll be more likely to take action on the organization versus disempowering questions. And the reason that I want to touch briefly on this is because it's something that, that you can use to attain any goal you want. And depending on the questions that you're asking yourself, with regards to any subject, it can either lead you to take the path where you're actually be on your way to fulfilling whatever goal you want to, or the disempowering question will actually lead you down the rabbit hole and will actually like not allow you, it will basically have you procrastinate what you want to do. So I'm going to talk a little bit briefly about the questions that I've been asking myself, the empowering questions that I've been asking myself as I've been going through the process of organizing. One of the most powerful questions that you can ask yourself during this process is, what would it take for my spaces to be organized? What would it take to have an organized kitchen, an organized office? When we start asking these questions that are open with possibility, we start getting ideas and we open up the world for solutions. We basically open up to solutions, right? A disempowering question, if you are feeling completely overwhelmed with the organization of your things, if you feel like, oh my gosh, this is like, and believe me, I know that it can feel overwhelming. It can feel like a homework, like cleaning and organizing, and particularly the office area. That was like the hardest part for me to like declutter the office because there's so much paperwork and just like little micro decisions to be made when you get rid of stuff in that area, in that basically space of the house. One of like the worst questions that you can ask yourself is basically like, why am I so disorganized? Because depending on what you ask, the universe is going to respond. And if you ask the universe, like, why haven't I cleaned this up before? Why am I so disorganized? You'll basically give the universe a million reasons to tell you why you're not worthy of organization, why you've always been a disorganized person. So the questions that you ask yourself can set you up for the path of success or the path of failure. And this is the same with anything, like I said, that you're trying to attain. And since I'm a master certified life coach, one of my jobs here will always be to like ask you questions that will have your engine churning, that will open up for your mind to finding solutions for everything. Because at the end of the day, if you have a life coach, your coach is not going to be the one to figure out your problems, the solutions to your problems. A good life coach, what he or she does is ask really powerful questions. And like I said, one of the most powerful questions that you can ask yourself with regards to anything that you want to accomplish is, what would it take in order for me to make this happen? So I've been asking myself that a lot, and it's really interesting how it just sort of keeps me on the right path, and it keeps me in action, and it keeps me oriented to solutions instead of oriented into the past and oriented into the problems. And in reality, when we are cleaning spaces, what we're wanting to do is enter into our future selves. And ask ourselves also, this is a really good question, is like, what would our future self, like what would the space of our future self look like? So like the kitchen of my future self, what would that look like? The bedroom of my future self, what would that look like? And you'll start to get ideas and more clarity, and you'll start to see how your future self has, and maybe you've never asked yourself this before, right? But if you imagine your future self to be successful, what does a successful person's bedroom look like? And what does a successful person's kitchen look like, right? And it will have you on the right path so that you start already living into the space of your future self. One of the other things before I let you guys go that it was interesting during this whole process is I realized that a lot of times we keep things that don't work. We keep things that either don't work or are broken. Now, I've always known from the Feng Shui rules that things that are broken should never be kept, broken glasses, broken plates, any of that, because that also is, a signal to the universe. When you're willing to keep things that are broken, it's basically signaling the universe, I'm willing to live in brokenness. I'm willing to live in broken relationships, a broken home, things that don't work. And it's interesting because the issue with me wasn't the broken stuff, because that stuff I threw away, right? But it was the stuff that I was keeping that I was like keeping to fix, but they hadn't been fixed. They hadn't been fixed. It had been a while. And it was sort of like one of these things that I was like, wow. And I had a conversation with my husband, like, the night where everything sort of came together, and I first stepped into my house, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is a completely different house. This has been 3 weeks of a lot of work and a lot of effort, but holy moly, this space feels completely, completely different. And I told my husband, I'm like, this is definitely a priority. More of a priority for the future. Like, I'm raising my standards. I'm no longer willing, like I came to conclusions as I was doing this cleanse and this decluttering, and I said, I am no longer willing to live in a house where things are not fixed. What's not fixed, if I'm not going to fix it, immediately it's going to move out. And also, absolutely no broken things. That was like a given, but I'm saying that because I know people that do keep broken things in their home. And just think about what type of message you're giving the universe with the things that you decide to keep in your space. Are the things that live in your space, are they reflecting your past? Are they reflecting the future that you desire? And if it's not reflecting the future that you desire, would you be willing to say thank you for that object and to let it go? Because maybe somebody needs it more than you do. Maybe it would find a new owner, or maybe it needs to be thrown away because it's something that doesn't work, like I said. And this is all very interesting processes. And yes, it's a lot of work, like I said, but at the end of the day, it can be so gratifying. And one of the most interesting things as well that happened is that, so I had a get together pretty much like right after I did this whole like decluttering process, and everybody that came to the house, like my in-laws came, and they were like, wow, they were like super impressed by how the house looked different. And I believe that it wasn't just what it looked like, but the energy that was held in the spaces that were left open. And it was basically, it was just a cleansing of energy and the movement of energy, that it was just like, there was like a clear message of an intention that had been set throughout the entire process that was really beautiful. And that's why I wanted to share this with you guys, because I feel like it's really, it has not just changed my home. It's really internally changed me. And it's given me also the feeling that like, oh my God, now I can focus on the things I really want to focus, because sometimes we don't realize that we're like weighed down by the things that are just there that we're not putting in its place, or we're not, it's too much stuff, and we can only make so many decisions and do so much with our day. And sometimes when we get rid of a lot of things, it just opens up the space for us to feel lighter, and for us to feel more clear in our heads, and for us to have that momentum to push forward, to actually go for the things that we want to, and that we want to welcome into our life in the future. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you like this episode, if you want to give me any comments, and you have any comments or questions, go to mamasconganaspodcast.com /209, mamasconganaspodcast.com /209. I am going, one of the things that I decided, Mamacita, for the new place, I am going to invest in a professional organizer for the first time in my life. Something that I spoke to my husband about. I was like, I want to hire a professional organizer to help me with my closets and so on and so forth, for my kitchen, just to have like things like really well kept, right? I would love to be able to interview her and bring her to the space of Mamas con Ganas to share that experience with you, because I feel like those people that help organize homes are like therapists, don't you think? I feel like, and when we don't have the ability to hire a professional organizer, the other thing that we can do is ask our mom or our sister and say, hey, can you help me organize my closet? Can you help me out? Because sometimes they're able to get rid of things. They're able to basically signal to you, like, that thing no longer belongs in your space. Like, you need to get rid of that. That is like from your past. We have a harder time getting rid of our own stuff, right? So they can help with that. And then you can tell them, hey, if you help me organize my closet, I'll help you organize yours. Anyways, that's just an idea that I'm putting out there. But I might be bringing an episode later on with a professional organizer, and I think that might be cool, because we've already had a feng shui specialist on here. So in any case, Mamacita, I did this episode in Spanish. If you want to share this episode and this information with somebody that only speaks Spanish, tell them to go hear episode 208. Until next week, besitos.
Hey, it's Valentina Azara. I hope you enjoyed this podcast episode. Thank you so much for liking, sharing, and subscribing to our motivational channel. If you have any questions or comments, visit our website at mamasconganaspodcast.com or follow me on social media at mamasconganas. And remember, don't be a mama con drama. Let's be mamas con ganas.